Hey everyone, my name is Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director of GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast. And welcome to a brand new episode of No Streaming Required, your weekly deep dive into all the latest and greatest in the world of physical media. Welcome back to another jam-packed show full of the biggest blockbusters to the most obscure titles that you'll probably encounter. We have stuff from this week from Severin, Arrow Video, Lionsgate, MGM, Paramount. We have a little bit of something for everyone. I'm very excited to dig into everything. There's a ton of titles, some with pretty elaborate packaging. So I'll try to streamline these thoughts as much as possible while giving you everything you need to know. But if you need a little bit more depth on some of these, most of these will have a written review component on GeekVibesNation.com. So make sure to check in there if you want to get a little bit more in depth. But I'm just going to start with one of the bigger titles out of the end of last year. It is Paramount's release of Gladiator II on 4K Ultra HD. This is a special steelbook version here. You can see Paul Mescal on the front, and there's the back. Strength and Honor. This actually pairs very well with the previous Gladiator steelbook from a few years back. This is the 4K steelbook. So they kept things stylistically in line for this one. You have 3 discs here, 1 4K disc and 2 Blu-ray disc, one with the feature and one just a disc for bonus features. And I'll show you the artwork underneath. So yes, this is the follow-up to the Oscar winner Gladiator. And is this as good as Gladiator? Of course not. It was never going to be, but it's a pretty solid sequel, all things considered. Ridley Scott, over the past few years, or especially over the last couple, like dozen or so years, has been very inconsistent, but whenever he hits, he really hits. I wouldn't say he hits it out of the park here. It would not surprise me for him to eventually do like an extended cut of this one that makes this even like a lot better. But as it is, it's kind of like more of a retread of the first one, where you have Paul Mescal as a man who loses his family at the beginning and seeks revenge to a variety of different people. There's the Pedro Pascal character who he sees carry out the killings. There's the Mad Kings, who are the leaders who are kind of trying to carry out all this violence years after the events of the first Gladiator. So what you have here is a lot of just fights in the arena, scheming behind the scenes, all that kinds of stuff. There are some very impressive set pieces. There is more of a leaning on the digital effects this time out, which to mixed results. There's just not quite the magic of the first Gladiator, but if you just want more kind of popcorn entertainment that's pretty well done by like a master director, it works well enough. But if you're wanting like a best picture caliber title, you're not going to get it here, but it's decent enough. I had a fine time with it. It's pretty entertaining. Good performers. Denzel Washington's in this, and seems like he's having a blast. Very like colorful role for him in this one, that he gets to play a villainous role. That's a lot of fun. If you are a fan of the film, this 4K is in Dolby Vision. It has Dolby Atmos audio. Both of those are fantastic. The audio is just like, will like knock you out of your seat. The Dolby Vision really enriches the colors and everything's really crisp. Everything looks very good. So 4K is the way to watch Gladiator 2. If you are capable, make sure to pick it up. In terms of special features, you do have a good number on that bonus disc. You have over 90 minutes of featurettes and making ofs and everything, along with some additional deleted scenes. So Gladiator 2 on 4K, there is a standard version, or you can get the steelbook version for fans of steelbook. Check it out if it interests you in the slightest. My next title got a pretty big critical lashing whenever it came out at the end of last year. That is from Warner Brothers, Red One. So yes, I have a Christmas movie here in March that we're releasing. This is The Rock, J.K. Simmons, Chris Evans, Lucy Liu, and this is basically J.K. Simmons plays Santa. He's kind of a jacked Santa, and he gets kidnapped. And The Rock, who plays his like head of security, tries to track him down with the help of Chris Evans' character, who's kind of a screw up and is on the naughty list and all that kind of stuff. So it's a big like kind of blockbuster version of a Christmas movie where you have like Christmas monsters, like big like monsters fighting people, and Christmas witches, and just like globe spanning antics and everything. It doesn't all quite work. It doesn't really get you into that Christmas spirit as much as you want. There are scenes that are fairly entertaining, and the cast is charismatic enough, but it's just, I didn't hate it as much as other people. I didn't think it was a dreadful movie. It just kind of reeks of kind of the soulless quality that Hollywood has been kind of burdened with over the last 10 years or so, especially. But if you just kind of want a crowd-pleasing Christmas movie for more of a mainstream audience, I think this will please people enough. But if you really want something that touches on like the magic of Christmas, or just that has like good dialogue and all that all that kind of stuff, I don't think this will really hit for you. This is available on Prime Video if you want to sample it before you buy. But if you are a fan of this 4K does come with Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision, and it looks good, it sounds good. This has like a lot of interesting locations that really pop with Dolby Vision, and of course the Dolby Atmos really comes alive, especially when you're dealing with like flying sleighs and all that over top and everything. So technically it's very good. There's no special features on this disc, but if you want just kind of a different type of like more mainstream friendly Christmas movie in your rotation, the Red One 4K Ultra HD does deliver. Just the movie itself is not the best, but I'm sure it'll have its fans. My next title, I don't think it will have that many fans. I did not really like it at all. This is Decal Releasing's 2073 from Asif Kapadia. This is a strange little movie. I wasn't quite sure what I was getting into. This is kind of like a hybrid narrative and documentary feature. I did not know about the documentary elements heading in, but it makes sense. This is basically, it's set in a future of 2073. It's post-apocalyptic, and it's kind of Samantha Morton's character here is kind of trying to survive and her current scenario, while kind of reflecting back on everything that led our country to this. So it's a lot of flashing back to like the current political regime, and how kind of the rise of fascism and global warming and all kinds of things that are plaguing our society right now, and it's making it a complete hellhole. This movie kind of tries to warn us to those kind of things that have been brewing, that are currently occurring, and how what we're on a path to in terms of like the surveillance state, the like 1% controlling the global economy, and how that's going to ruin us, all that kind of stuff. Very cheery stuff, of course. But that stuff is like the documentary elements that they are weaving in is stuff that at least I know, and I'm sure a lot of people who are more knowledgeable know how much of a hellscape our current society is. So that stuff isn't like the most pleasant to reflect on, and it's also not the most insightful if you're wanting something new to gain from things. The futuristic stuff, like the scripted stuff, you have people like Samantha Morton and Naomi Ackie and everything. It's not interesting. And they don't really do anything with it. It's just kind of there, and it seems like it's trying to like trick people into watching a documentary, but it's not very interesting. So it's all kind of very dull. It's pretty short, which is really its only saving grace. It's like 80 minutes, if that, I think. So yeah, just a miss for me. I didn't really like it. I understand why this was kind of dropped at the end of the year by Neon. Neon's a great company. This is just one that it didn't really connect, and it didn't connect with me, and I know it didn't connect with a lot of people. The Blu-ray presentation is very good. The audio visual wise, it's fine. DTS 5.1, clear video picture, no, not digital anomalies or anything. This is a burn disc. for those who have players who do not work well with burn disc, be aware of that. No special features, so only if you know you love this film should you get this Blu-ray. Otherwise, try to sample it some way. And then if you do want to own it on Blu-ray, it's a decent enough quality, but it's a hard movie for me to recommend to pretty much anyone, just even no matter the political spectrum. It's not very an entertaining movie. But if I'm talking about documentaries and I needed a palate cleanser, I luckily had from Mill Creek Entertainment Documentary Now, the complete series. Now, they released the first 2 seasons several years ago, but this is finally all 4 seasons and 27 episodes now in this complete series set. So you have a booklet here that comes with it. That's like kind of an episode guide that shows off like posters for each of these and little synopses for everything. And just a lot of, it's not like super in depth, but it helps you kind of get a handle on some of what is being included in these episodes. So for those who don't know, Documentary Now is a series mostly featuring Bill Hader and Fred Armisen that takes well-worn documentary tropes and like actually like pretty famous documentaries and does like a parody version of them, but it's a loving parody because these are done by creatives who, this is like a Grey Gardens parody here, done by people who love documentaries but can see the absurdity of some of them. So it's really just one of the funniest shows. If you're a documentary fan especially, but even if you're not, it's a very funny show, even if you don't know necessarily what they're spoofing. Like this is a Stop Making Sense parody, the Talking Heads documentary. There's a take on that. There's just some great stuff here. And so I watched all these as they were airing. This is actually my favorite episode. This is from the 3rd season. It's a play on Company. It's a co-op. Has John Mulaney and Renee Elise Goldsberry and Paula Pell. A lot of great people there. That's just like a pitch perfect send up of the original cast recording Company. These are just hilarious. They make me laugh so much, and they're very quick. They're like half-hour episodes. So they don't overstay their welcome. There's a couple 2-parters, but that's included within the 27 episodes as like 2 different episodes. And these are just very smart and very funny. It's just one of the better shows that was out at the end of like the 2010s. So glad to finally have this all on Blu-ray. And the first release that came out with the first 2 seasons did not have any special features. This has some special features on the 4th disc, which is pretty cool. So you do get like a whole panel about the Documentary Now, some featurettes, some deleted scenes, some trailers, and audio-visual wise, for a Mill Creek title, which they're sometimes a little bit iffy on the audio-visual side, this holds up pretty well. There's a few kind of minor compression artifacts here and there, but overall it holds up very well. It's a new series, so it's pretty crisp and clear. DTS 5.1 or no LPCM 2.0 sound, and sounds really good and clear. And yeah, it's a treat. I love Documentary Now a lot, and it didn't get a lot of play mainstream because it aired on IFC, which isn't a channel that a lot of people have. But this show deserves to be seen in some way, so make sure to check it out if you haven't seen it. See if it's for you. But if so, if you watch a few episodes and you find yourself laughing, make sure to own it on Blu-ray because it is very funny and I love it so much. I'm glad the last 2 seasons finally came out on Blu-ray. Now we find ourselves going down a line for a couple of titles of Lionsgate titles, and they recently launched a new endeavor called Lionsgate Limited, which is like a storefront online where they exclusively sell some of their titles that they aren't sending out to other retailers. It's just you can only buy these titles there. And it's a way for them to dig a little bit more into their catalog in a way that they haven't been able to in recent years. And it's really a cool thing for us physical media collectors who they have a lot of great titles, but we just haven't been able to get them because it wasn't financially viable. So our first title I'm going to talk about, this one hits especially hard this week considering we lost Gene Hackman. And this is one of their first Lionsgate limited releases. This is the 50th anniversary edition of The Conversation from Francis Ford Coppola. This is a huge box set. A similar box set was released overseas, but now the U.S. Was finally able to get it. I will kind of show off everything that's in here inside. So this is a 4K Ultra HD release. I included the little card that's on the back in here. It fits pretty comfortably in here. You have to like kind of bend it just a little bit, but you can kind of fit in here. But inside this package, you do have a poster. So here you can see the classic poster here. Then you have a second poster here. That's kind of the newer artwork. And then you have a booklet, which I can show off. It's a pretty thick booklet. So I'll show that off here. You got a lot of great writing in here that you will not want to miss. And some stills and all kinds of everything. You got, I'll show off the steelbook last, but you got a cassette of the soundtrack. So I haven't opened this. I don't have a cassette player, but I think that's really neat because this is a classic soundtrack, and I'll show that off here. Got that here. Just a cool cassette just housed there. That's at the bottom. But on top of that, you have the 4K steelbook here. So you got a plastic cover underneath this, underneath here. That's the spine. And then underneath you have the 4K and Blu-ray disc. The Blu-ray disc is also newly remastered. But before I get into the technical side of things, The Conversation, for those who don't know, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, Gene Hackman plays a surveillance expert who's a little bit paranoid himself. He's on a job one day, and he overhears something that potentially leads him to believe that a murder is going to occur. And since he's already kind of paranoid about surveillance in his own life, knowing what he does and what can be achieved, it kind of sends him down a path of being uncertain and trying to investigate what he heard, investigate a little bit the client that hired him to carry out this surveillance and what it means, what is actually going to be carried out, if these people who he was surveilling are safe, all that kind of stuff. It's one of the great Francis Ford Coppola movies, one of the great Gene Hackman movies. And yes, we all love The Godfather in terms of Coppola, but this one is up there with them. And this is just a fantastic discovery. And also, as a bonus, this is also set during the Christmas season. So you also have an unconventional Christmas movie added to your collection if you get this. But the movie itself is fantastic, and it was previously released on Blu-ray in a Francis Ford Coppola collection, and it was awful. But now we have this new 4K restoration of the original camera negative. This is in Dolby Vision. You do have an LPCM mono track and then a 5.1 DTS 5.1 track. You do, that the audio visuals are fantastic. It retains its original 70s grit. It's naturally filmic. Everything looks fantastic. There's lots of bold colors. Everything is nice and the contrast and shadow levels and everything. There's nice shadow detail. No blown highlights. Fantastic. The audio. This is a movie that uses audio in very interesting ways because they are doing surveillance, and the way things kind of pan throughout the speakers and stuff sometimes, or what you hear or don't hear, and kind of some of the stuff is purposefully garbled at the beginning because they're not quite hearing things through their equipment and all that. It's used in very effective ways, and it's terrific. It sounds great. And then you also get a ton of special features. You do get 2 commentary tracks here. You do get an intro from Francis Ford Coppola. You do get a Q&A that's about 43 minutes with the editor. You get additional interviews. You get screen tests. You get location comparisons, like then and now location featurettes, and more. So I will admit this is a little bit pricey on Lionsgate Limited, but for what you get for this and like just this huge thick package, it's definitely worth it. And the Steelbook's cool. The movie's an all-timer. And like I said, the great Gene Hackman, who we just lost this past week. This is one of his best performances. So I think it is no better tribute to him than to watch one of his best performances. This was just this lined up that I was going to talk about the conversation this week, but I'm not kind of trying to capitalize on everything, but it really made me appreciate him even more after that happened, and I got to watch this movie. It's really fantastic. So if you're a fan of Gene Hackman, Francis Ford Coppola, or just great cinema, the conversation on 4K is a must. Also, thanks to Lionsgate Limited, we are able to have another cinematic classic on 4K. It is the new release of The Third Man from Carol Reed with Joseph Cotton, Orson Welles, Alida Valli, and Trevor Howard. So this is a classic that I actually never owned before, because by the time I wanted to pick up the Blu-ray from the Criterion Collection, it was out of print, and I was not going to be paying out of print prices. So my patience weighed off to finally get this on 4K. So even beating out the presentation from the Criterion Collection with this new 4K restoration, courtesy of Studio Canal. So you got a 4K and Blu-ray disc. I'll show everything off here. So that is what the Steelbook looks like underneath. And you got some non-disc based extras here. As I'll show you, got some little kind of art cards here that you can kind of go with the movie. You also, this isn't my favorite way to package this, but inside here they include a booklet, so it's a little bit of a thicker package, but you get a really nice booklet that has some great essays, and that is really worth checking out. But the movie itself is also just one of the great film noirs. You have, for those who don't know, it's like Joseph Cotton plays a man who is going overseas to meet his friend who has offered him some employment. And when he gets there, he is told that his friend has died. And he ends up getting, there's a little bit of suspicion around this death the more that he kind of learns about it. And he kind of gets tangled up in this kind of web of like lies where people's stories aren't lining up directly, and he kind of gets involved with his friend's like girlfriend that survives him, and he just kind of going down this path of just like, what happened to his friend? Why was he killed? Was he killed? Was it an accident? All that kind of stuff, and just where it eventually ends up. It's very masterful. It's one of the great film noirs, and it's really just a really great film. So it is presented with a new 4K restoration from Studio Canal. It's in Dolby Vision. You have a DTS 2.0 mono. This is a black and white film, but even black and white films benefit from Dolby Vision. It's nice, perfect contrast, grayscale, all that kind of stuff. Looks great. DTS 2.0 mono, split mono track. Sounds really good. There's a little bit of age limitations in point, but everything sounds good and is very clear. Just a really ideal audiovisual presentation. You do get a commentary track, various featurettes, a 94-minute documentary on the making of the history and legacy of this film, and various interviews. So tons of special features, great packaging, just a classic movie overall. So if you're a film fan, make sure to check out The Third Man on 4K Ultra HD from Lionsgate Limited. Now I have some of my most anticipated titles from this early part of the year. My first title is a Lionsgate Limited exclusive because it's a Steelbook, but I'm going to talk about 3 Quentin Tarantino movies. The first of which is Jackie Brown. So Jackie Brown, this is a Lionsgate Limited version of this movie. So this Steelbook is exclusive to Lionsgate Limited. The slipcover version, which I'll show off with my next two titles, that's available kind of more of a wider release. So if you want a steelbook, head to Lionsgate Limited while it still remains, and you can kind of get this this release here. So I'll show you underneath. You got our titular figure. And so this was Tarantino's movie. I believe this was his movie after Pulp Fiction. He had kind of blown up after Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, and people weren't sure where he was going to go next. And he went to more of a movie where he kind of resuscitated the career of Pam Grier. You had Samuel L. Jackson as a gangster who was trying to smuggle in money through Pam Grier's character, and kind of this involvement within this police involvement to try to bring him down. And there's a bunch of double crosses. All these people kind of get into this tangled web of lies and like double crossing and not unsure motivations and all kinds of stuff. So it has a fantastic cast. In addition to Pam Grier and Samuel L. Jackson, you have Robert De Niro, you have Brigitte Fonda, you have Robert Forster, you have Michael Keaton, just a murderer's row of performers. And while it is not my preferred Quentin Tarantino movie, it is still a fantastic movie, and I really enjoyed seeing this. I hadn't watched this in maybe 15 years. It had been a long time since I'd seen this one. So I was glad I got to revisit it in 4K. So this does come from a 4K restoration of the original camera negative in Dolby Vision. And compared to the next two movies I'm going to talk about, this is a godsend that this was finished on film, because it looks terrific. It's naturally filmic. Everything looks like nice and beautiful and crisp. No anomalies. This is as close to perfect as I could wish for. Nice, stable black levels, no blown highlights. Everything's natural. Dolby Vision's great. Colors, everything. Just an ideal transfer. So keep that in mind as I discuss these Tarantino movies. So this has the DTS 5.1 track. It sounds really good. You have all the special features that were previously included, which include you have a roundtable discussion from some critics about the movie. You have a pretty nice making of featurette. You have various interviews. You have deleted scenes. So pretty nice array of special features. Nothing new, but everything that seemingly was included before is included again, because it's is the old Blu-ray that is included in here. So that has all the special features. But if you just want Jackie Brown looking its absolute best, the 4K Ultra HD, either the Steelbook or the slipcase version that is available wide, definitely make sure to pick that up. But more controversial are actually my probably personal favorite Quentin Tarantino movies. We have Kill Bill Volume 1 and Volume 2. These are the slip-covered versions. There are some, or were some, Steelbook versions on the Lionsgate Limited site. I believe Volume 2 is still available. I think Volume 1 is sold out now. I've seen it go back and forth, back in stock. But I do have these slip-covered versions, which, if I'm being honest, I actually kind of like the artwork for these a little bit more on the slip-covered versions. But the 4Ks themselves are very controversial, and I will get into that. But I would just say, for those, I won't go deep into Kill Bill. It's a revenge story. It's Uma Thurman playing a bride who's part of an elite gang of assassins who gets double-crossed at her wedding. They believe she is killed at her wedding, but she survives, and then she comes back after many years in a coma for revenge. And it's just an epic story over 2 films. The first film is very action heavy. You get more of the kind of Shaw Brothers influence of this one, and then you get more of a spaghetti western feel of Volume 2. And I just love these movies so much. I think Tarantino crafted a masterpiece. I love them so much. So I was really excited to get these on 4K, and unfortunately I cannot say these are home runs. I've already published a written review of these where I kind of go into everything I think about these sets, but I will just say, these were, I will give some context. These were both created, these were the first Tarantino movies created and finished to a digital intermediate. So these were very early days of finishing to a digital intermediate, which means it's kind of locked into a quality level where unless Lionsgate went back and rebuilt from the original camera negative the movie, which includes like all the any special effects and all that kinds of stuff, it's astronomically expensive. Some studios do have the money to do it for certain things, but this has not been a case where this has happened. So this has a ceiling as to how good this can look scaled up from that 2K digital intermediate. Now, there are plenty of digital intermediates that have been upscaled that look fantastic. Unfortunately, there are some issues kind of baked into the masters of both of these Kill Bill films where there's quite a bit of digital smearing that you will maybe see whenever characters move at points. Some people are more sensitive to it to others. Some people say it's unwatchable. Some people don't really notice it that much. It depends on how much of like an eagle-eyed viewer you are. I noticed it, but it did not completely ruin the experience for me. Specifically because I did find gains in other places. If you look at the original Blu-rays, you will notice, especially Volume 1, but both volumes separate, that there are extremely blown out highlights, like insanely blown. Just look at the Bernita Green fight in Volume 1. It's very early in the movie. If you try to look out the kitchen window, it's basically no detail outside. Like it's all just, it looks like a blinding light coming through the window where you can't really see anything. On the new 4K release, those highlights are kind of refined. They're still had that Robert Richardson cinematography look where they'll like kind of like hot highlights, but it's more, you get some detail within that and you can actually see outside and you can see light fixtures, like you can see the outline of light fixtures and bulbs and stuff. It's not just like a glowing orb that like is textureless. So I actually found a little bit more of a benefit to the refinement of the highlights and that kind of improvement over the kind of like the exaggeration of the baked in limitations of like the smearing of the digital intermediate. Because there is not really a bump in fine detail in these, not really, but it is this control, the Dolby Vision, that will make people believe whether the upgrade is worth it to them. Volume 1 is much more plagued by this smearing than Volume 2. Volume 2 actually looks pretty nice. It is a very fine-looking presentation, especially, like I said, the refined highlights and all that stuff. And deeper black levels, like whenever you have the bride trapped underground in a coffin, you can kind of see a little bit more like body detail in the darkness and stuff. So these are definitely not going to be for everyone. These 4Ks, they are not what fans want, but that is because the limitations of the technology or the source material. I do hope one day that somehow Tarantino decides that he wants to go back and have these rebuilt in proper 4K, spend the money, go back to the original material, build everything from the ground up. That is the dream. That is not what we're living right now, though. There is an upgrade, but there are some downgrades in quality. But overall, I think it's a net positive for both of these titles. There's no new special features, and the original special features that are included aren't that in-depth. You get a making up for each of them. You get a musical performances, but there's not really much else compared to most other Tarantino movies. These kind of seem a little bit overlooked in terms of special features. There's also kind of a point of contention is this doesn't include the whole bloody affair that people want. You don't have the colorized version of the House of Blue Leaves. You do not have these edited together. These are just kind of things that fans wanted but did not get with these releases. Even with that, I do think these are improvements in some respects. But if you're going to be sensitive to the smearing, I would not recommend it. If you are happy with your current Blu-rays, if you think they look good, probably don't need to upgrade. But if you are maybe bothered by the blown highlights and everything, and you want to check out and see how 4K looks, do check them out. I think it is worth it, but caution, like, these are very controversial, as I'm saying. So just use your own judgment, know how sensitive you are to certain issues, and go with God is basically what I'm saying. So I love Tarantino. I just wish that he had just not decided to deal with digital intermediates with his work, especially early on, because it's just really kind of held back some of his 4K releases. But as I said, not all digital intermediates are bad. The next movie is scaled up from a digital intermediate, and it looks fantastic. It's a bit newer. It was in the 2010s. We have the horror cult favorite, You're Next, on 4K Ultra HD. So this is one I was very excited to upgrade to 4K. I've had the Blu-ray for years, and this got, I believe it was last year, this got released by Second Sight on 4K overseas. Now, I had a feeling that Lionsgate would eventually release this, so I didn't import it. And I'm extra glad now that my wish came true, that Lionsgate Limited decided to release this one. And so you have the new 4K disc, and then you have the original Blu-ray disc included. So for those who don't know, this movie, it's a classic home invasion tale, but with a twist. So it's a family having a dinner where some people start invading the home, and the people who are doing the home invasion get a little bit more than they bargained for once they get inside the home. And that's all I'll say. It's best to go into this as blind as possible. It's a ton of fun. I had actually just watched this again last year because my wife wanted to watch it for the first time, and we watched it, and it was a blast. So watching it again so soon after this past Halloween season, I will say that I was very impressed by how this looked on 4K. This is a 4K presentation. It's been upscaled to 4K in Dolby Vision. This should be the same master that was approved by the director on the Second Sight release. So you do have a nice refinement of like there's a lot of stuff takes place in overnight in darkness and shadows and everything. This has a really nice upgrade in shadow detail. This was shot digitally, but it has kind of a filmic texture overlay that looks quite nice. And it's just a really great transfer that really makes this movie look the best that I believe it can on home entertainment. So really like darkly comedic fun, just like great violence and all that stuff. And the Dolby Vision new presentation looks great. Dolby Atmos audio upgrade from the previous DTS 5.1. Dolby Atmos audio sounds fantastic. You get like people walking overhead, like upstairs and everything, and that really activates the Atmos. Really, like the speakers are implemented very nicely in that respect. And for those who did not import the Second Sight release, you get all of those special features from what I can tell from that Second Sight release included on here. Plus, you get features that were not able to be included on that release in here. So it's kind of like the perfect assemblage of all the material. So here, that release from Second Sight overseas dropped like some of like a making of featurette and like an audio commentary track from the original release. So there are 3 commentary tracks actually. So you have the one. Or there are some that are new from the directors and one is older, and then you have another commentary track as well. You get tons of interviews with like the cast and creative team. You get all the archival special features from the original Blu-ray disc. So really, this is just the ultimate package for Your Next fans. I think you'll be very pleased by this one. It's a great film. It's a great release from Lionsgate Limited. So make sure to check that out if you are interested in the slightest. Not quite a slasher, but going over to my era video titles for a pretty decent giallo movie. More than decent, actually. It's a classic. We have Don't Torture a Duckling from Lucio Fulci. This one is nice and gnarly. So this has a reversible cover art that I'll show you. This is the artwork underneath. And then you have yet another artwork that I'll show off. But this, I since my previous co-host, Mike Vaughn, whenever they tried to introduce me to the world of Fulci, I've been trying to follow their lead and get as much as possible onto my screen. And this one is maybe my favorite so far. This is so dark-hearted, and because I know a lot of people have sensitivities to children getting killed in movies, and there are a lot of kids killed in this movie. This is about a small town where there are basically a killer going around killing kids. Oh, a little not safe for work content there. Going around killing kids, and there's some essays and stuff. And just kind of like the mystery about who's killing these kids, what's happening to them, and just trying to figure out the mystery of that. It's a giallo archetype. You know, kind of like the beats you need to hit. But Fulci, it's so dark and twisted, and really interesting characters and moral dynamics and all that kind of stuff. It's just a great movie, and it's like I said, I kind of like the more like sick and twisted psychological stuff. So this may very much disturb the parents amongst us, but if you are not sensitive to kids getting killed, don't Torture a Duckling. It's a very interesting giallo movie that I enjoyed quite a lot. I did not have the previous release of this, but I'm sure this is a really nice upgrade from that, based on other kind of stuff like Torso that I've seen, like the upgrades from like those giallos. This has a new 4K scan from the original camera negative. Looks terrific. No dust or dirt or anything like that. This is in Dolby Vision. You have a mono soundtrack of the English and Italian tracks. Both of these were recorded in post-production, so you do have a little bit of a loose sync to some of the audio, but that is due to the nature of how it was recorded. Nothing was recorded on set. Everything was just recorded after the fact, but you do have those two mono tracks that do sound good. It's just sometimes sync can be a little bit loose because people aren't maybe necessarily speaking the language that they are acting in and all that kind of stuff. You do have a commentary track. You got some video essays. You got some interviews. Just really a well-rounded release from Arrow Video of a giallo classic from Fulci. So keep bringing the Fulci to 4K, and I will keep picking it up. This is a fun one. So don't Torture a Duckling. If you're a fan of this movie, this is a really, really great release of it. And then another release from Arrow Video that I was quite excited about, because I had not seen this movie in years, and it was kind of like a guilty pleasure. Not that I really believe in that saying, but this is I believe 1999 shark film, Deep Blue Sea. So this is a nice thick package for this one. This is from their Warner Brothers deal, which I've been enjoying everything they've been pulling from that catalog. We get The Long Kiss Goodnight, I believe, next month, which I'm really excited about. But this has like Samuel L. Jackson, Thomas Jane, Saffron Burrows, LL Cool J, a lot of people here. Stellan Skarsgård. And this does have reversible cover art. I'll show you what's underneath in a little bit, but I don't want to take up all of the time like reversing it myself, but I'll show you what's underneath. This is the classic artwork. Here you got some postcards. So as I said, here's the artwork that's underneath the slip. And then I'll show you the poster, which has that artwork and the other artwork I'm talking about. That's the reverse cover art. So this is a really pretty big poster here. So that's the one side of the poster here. So yeah, pretty big boy. And then the reversible cover art is this. So just imagine on here, if I turn this around, it is this classic Ever since the VHS cover art is what it's been. So you have that on the reverse. And so for those who don't know about this movie, it's basically about scientists who are doing genetic experiments on sharks. Here's some essays to kind of try to cure Alzheimer's, and it ends up making them too smart, and they start rebelling and attacking. So genetically enhanced smart sharks rebelling and just really burning their kind of captivity in the ocean down. It's like the research base that they really just like wreck shit, and it's great. So it is cheesy in a way, but like most shark films outside of Jaws are cheesy. But it's a lot of fun. It's like cheesy in an interesting way, and it's like, but there's some great kills, great performances. Not like Oscar-winning performances, but just like committed to this kind of genre performances. If you've seen a certain Chappelle Show skit featuring Chappelle as Samuel L. Jackson, you will know his fate in this movie. But there's a lot of great deaths. The only thing I will say is this is 1999, and the CGI that was implemented whenever that was kind of shows up in the movie, that's when it kind of takes a downturn. It really takes you out of it. There are some really cool practical effects in here that shine, and I love those practical shark effects. But whenever any digital stuff happens, it really just kind of shows the limitations of that era. But otherwise, it's a fun movie. You know what you're getting into with like a shark movie from the 90s. And I have not seen any of the sequels, but I think this one holds up as a pretty solid movie, campy or not. And this has been given a new 4K restoration from the original camera negative in Dolby Vision. You have the original DTS 5.1 soundtrack and a new Atmos soundtrack. So visually, this looks fantastic. I've never owned this before, but this is a really nice looking transfer. Nice bold colors, no compression artifacts, no damage or anything like that. Everything looks natural, is what you want. It looks great. I know this has been approved by director Rennie Harlan, so it looks really good. Every soundtrack sounds really good as well. You get some commentary tracks, you get some video essays, you get some interviews. You got a nice well-rounded package here. So Era Video, they treated this one very well. You got a nice big package here. So Deep Blue Sea, if you're a fan, I think you'll be very pleased by this. My final Arrow Video title is from Yasuzo Mazumura, and that is Play It Cool. Now, this is about a young woman who gets in kind of to more of like the call girl lifestyle. Her mom is in prison. She's trying to earn money to have money to support her when she gets out of prison, and just really kind of make her way through life and everything. And she kind of works at kind of like a skeezy club, but she kind of gets rescued by a man and brought to the city to work in a more upscale club. And it's really about her trying to use her smarts to get money out of people, and trying to show her appreciation for this man who kind of rescued her from the kind of like the dregs of society, and just trying to really making an impression once she gets to more of the sophisticated side of life. There's some interesting kind of, not twists and turns necessarily, but plot developments that I found really engaging. The performances are solid. It's not overly tawdry or like skeezy or anything like that. It's more of a character study, and I liked it for that reason. And yeah, overall, I liked it. It's a solid movie, and this has a new HD presentation, HD master that was supplied by Kadokawa. Everything looks pretty solid. I didn't notice any major shortcomings, but since Arrow Video was not able to do any of their own restorations, there maybe are like small things here and there, but overall, this is a nice, consistent looking transfer. I think Kadokawa treated this well before they gave it over to Arrow Video. I think most people will be pleased by the color, timing, and all that kind of stuff. You get a commentary track, you do get a video essay, and a couple of other special features. But overall, I think fans of Japanese cinema will definitely be pleased by Play It Cool if you check it out. But just don't go in expecting, like, it's not like a soft core porn or anything, despite what the cover looks like. It is a little bit more nuanced than that, and it does actually have a good amount of depth. Staying over in the land of Asian cinema, we're going over to Eureka, and we have a twofer from two Venom mob films. We have The Daredevils and Ode to Gallantry. These are both from Shang-Chi, and he just does a really great job with these. These are your classic kind of Shaw Brothers outings where you have two films that involve kind of people fighting for honor, like seeking revenge, like trying to train to confront people that have wronged them. All that kind of stuff. There's like talismans and all that kind of good stuff within this. So if you kind of generally like Shaw Brothers movies, I think these Venom mob movies are just another two great additions to that kind of wave of like Hong Kong cinema that's been coming out on physical media for the last 4 or 5 years, especially heavily. Eureka has been a great resource in that department, and they've done a really nice job with these masters. So these have been provided, HD masters provided by Celestial Pictures. They look very good. Both of these look very nice. Each come with their original Mandarin audio, but the Daredevils does come with an English dub as well. There's no English dub for Ode to Gallantry. But everything sounds pretty solid. There's a little bit of like source shortcomings, like a little bit of like maybe a little bit of distortion here and there, but overall it holds together pretty well. You do get, each film gets 2 commentary tracks, so 4 commentary tracks total in an interview. But if you like the Venom mob films, this is easy pickup for you. But I think anyone who's kind of into that kind of whole genre, I think you'll be pleased. Now, not Venom mob, but going to Venom from Blue Underground. This one is from 1981. This is not in any way associated with the Marvel Venom films, which I've talked about recently. This is a snake movie with Klaus Kinski and Sterling Hayden, Sarah Miles, Susan George, Oliver Reed. This is a pretty fun movie. This also kind of somewhat connects to the Kill Bill movies that I was talking about as well, because it involves a Black Mamba, which is Uma Thurman's kind of code name in that movie. But it's a Black Mamba that is inside a house, of which there is a crime being committed by a group of people trying to kidnap a young, valuable boy. And they get stuck inside the house, cornered by the police, and they are stuck in there with a heavily venomous snake. And it is every bit as fun as that premise sounds. Yes, there's some cheesy moments of people wrestling with fake snakes and everything, but that is what you want from this era of cinema, and it delivers. And yeah, Venom, if you like creature features, Venom, it's a good time. Klaus Kinski going full crazy as you expect from him, and yeah, it's a good time. I never had the original Blue Underground Blu-ray, but this one comes from a 4K restoration of the 35mm Internegative in Dolby Vision. Looks very good, very consistent, looks great. No blemishes. I was very pleased with everything. You do get an Atmos track, a 5.1 track, and the original 2.0 track. So you're covered whether you want expansive audio or anything down to the original audio, you're covered. 2 commentary tracks, 4 featurettes, really nice selection of special features from Blue Underground. They always do a fantastic job. So I think anyone who's been picking up their movies will think that this is well worth it for them. And as you see, this slipcover is different from this cover, and I don't think there is another cover here, which I'll show off. If you want that cover there, you can have another version to show off. So Venom from Blue Underground, they've done a really nice job, and I think that anyone who's a fan of the film will be very, very pleased with that release. Speaking of cult favorites, we have one that really caused a stir whenever the limited editions were coming out near Halloween last year. We finally had the standard edition of Trick or Treat. This is from 1986. And this is from a Red Shirt video in association with Synapse Films. So the great Michael Felsher, anyone who's a fan of boutique labels will probably have heard that name before. He's hosted tons of commentaries and like created many of your favorite like retrospective documentaries. He's just one of the best, and he is kind of doing some of his own, going out a little bit on his own, and this is one of his first releases, this Trick or Treat release, and it is a banger. So this movie, for those who don't know, it's basically a kid who's kind of not the most popular kid. He kind of stumbles across a record of one of his favorite artists that's kind of telling him, like giving him like messages through the music, like if you spin it backwards, to like how to live his life, and it starts to benefit him in various ways, but also starts racking up a pile of bodies, and the just disturbing things start happening also along with it. And there's a lot of like creature stuff going on and just kind of demonic forces at play. So if that sounds interesting to you, Trick or Treat I think will deliver on every front. There's a lot of heavy metal music, and just like, this is a fun movie. I enjoyed it. I know I've been saying that about a lot, but it's a pretty good slate that I've had this week, especially in terms of boutique labels. And yeah, it's one that I had not had on my radar before, because there's so many variations of like Trick or Treat, Trick or Treats, so I wasn't really quite sure like what this movie was, and then I watched it, and this is definitely high up on my list of titles with kind of similar names. And this is a really, really great release of this. Whenever it was originally released, like the deluxe editions, which I think some of them are in stock, like at various, I think at the Synapse website, and some various boutique labels have different cover variations. But if you want this standard version with this really nice slip, I'm glad they included a slip. You do get the movie with a 4K restoration of the 35mm original camera negative. Pretty much flawless transfer. I was knocked out by the quality of this. I think pretty much everyone will be pleased. In Dolby Vision, both 2.0 theatrical audio and a new 5.1 expanded track. Both of those sound really great. 3 commentary tracks, a couple of which are really not commentary on the films, but they are extended interviews that Michael Felsher conducted with various people from the film, that you can watch over the top of the film, which I think is nice to not have to just watch a static screen for like an extended period of time. And he always gets great interviews. You do get a new 81-minute retrospective documentary with a ton of people contributing to that, and some other like various small features. So for this standard edition of Trick or Treat, if you've been waiting, I don't think you'll be displeased. This is a really nice slipcover, and this is a really nice disc inside. Definitely pick it up if you're interested. So I got a run of MGM films that are either re-releases or new to, like, bare bone, new to disc movies. This first one is a re-release of the Richard Dreyfuss movie Inserts. So this movie, you have Richard Dreyfuss. This is set during the time right as you're emerging out of the silent film era. He plays a man who he's one of many people who does not know how to. He's like an alcoholic. He is doesn't know how to make that transition to sound film, and he's kind of taken to making stag pictures. So pornos and like old school pornos, and just like making those kind of films. And this is really kind of functions almost like a stage play. Almost, it's like a set in a single location, and you get to learn about him. You get to learn about the people who come in like to shoot these films or are funding these films and everything. And but it's a talky picture. So you do have Richard Dreyfuss, you have Jessica Harper, Bob Hoskins, Veronica Cartwright, Stephen Davies, all within like this interesting, definitely hard R-rated tale. I would not be surprised if NC-17, so that makes sense considering everything you see in this movie. So if you want to see like an old school porno set and all the drama that happens on there, check it out. There's a lot of long monologues. If you want to see Jessica Harper naked for like 35 minutes straight, have at it. But the movie itself, even if you're not a pervert just looking for a quick thrill, it's a pretty interesting character study, and it's definitely worth checking out. This was previously released by Twilight Time back in 2016. That's long out of print, so this is back in print. No special features, but probably the same transfer. It's an older master, but it looks decent. No obvious damage, just a little soft. But overall, it's a passable transfer. If you did not get to own it, you can now own inserts. Next film that I want to talk about is new to disc, and that is Twilight Time, which is interesting because the last movie was released by Twilight Time, and this is a movie called Twilight Time, which was not released on Twilight Time. But this is a family film, or kind of a tale about a small town and kind of like the inhabitants that are within it. You have Carl Malden as kind of like a kind-hearted figure who is trying to raise these young boys that I believe are his grandsons, and who are staying with him, and just kind of all like the colorful characters that you meet in this town, and just kind of like the evolution of some of the characters who cross Carl Malden's path. And it's very touching, very poignant. I liked kind of getting to know this town, and like in addition to Carl Malden, the young boys also kind of have his own coming of age kind of experience, and I love coming of age films. And there's like a young school teacher who comes to town. You get to learn a little bit about her, and it's just very touching. It's a type of movie I really like. It's a kind of old school feeling, very touching. So if that interests you at all, make sure to check out Twilight Time. This seems to be from an older master, but nothing seems to be overly like wrong with it. There's no like damage. There's no heavy processing. It's just kind of like maybe a little bit soft, a little ragged here and there, but overall solid transfer. No special features, but just a good movie and worth owning if you like kind of heartfelt movies. Another re-release we have here is the 2001 movie Bandits with Bruce Willis, Billy Bob Thornton, and Cate Blanchett. I enjoy all these people, and this was one that I rented more than once back in the day, whenever I was younger, and it was fun to revisit this one. It's a Barry Levinson movie, and it's not great, but it's fun. And Billy Bob Thornton and Bruce Willis play escaped convicts who go on like a bank robbing tour, and they kind of gain notoriety. They eventually kidnap Cate Blanchett's character, and they all kind of start working together, robbing banks, and a little bit of tension arises whenever they both fall in love with Cate Blanchett's character, and how that kind of eventually evolves and everything. It's lighthearted fun. It's not overly complicated. It's a little overly long. It's a little over 2 hours long, and I do not think it needed to be that long. But if you like bank robbery films in general, Bandits is worth a watch. This was previously released by Olive Films back in 2016. This is probably from that same master. I noticed a little bit of smearing, a little bit, like in some of like the film, like transitions and stuff, and there was a few insert shots that did not look quite Blu-ray quality. So the master isn't the best, but whenever it's just most of the time it looks pretty solid. So this is probably how it's always looked. I don't know, but it might be a limitation of the source material. But overall, it looks solid. And yeah, no special features, but just another cheapy MGM Blu-ray, just getting it back in print, which is the same that can be said, which ironically is not the end of our show, but it is the end from 1978. This is a 2015 Olive release that has been newly released here. Burt Reynolds, Dom DeLuise, Sally Field together. Burt Reynolds plays a man who at the beginning of the movie gets a diagnosis that he is going to die sometime either in the next few months or in the next year. Not really sure, but he knows that he is going to die, and how he processes that, tries to process that for quite a while, and eventually decides that he wants to go out on his own terms, and he tries to find a way to kill himself, and it kind of keeps being interrupted or kind of foiled in certain ways. And this is a comedy, despite like it being about death. It's kind of a lighthearted take on the end of your life and just like what you want to live for, what you want to do with the remaining time you have, all that kind of stuff. I wish Sally Field had been used a little bit more in this, but I'm always glad to see her. It's a pretty silly Burt Reynolds role, but he does a good job. And then Dom DeLuise is a big personality, and he shines here. Pretty funny, not like the best comedy, but overall I enjoyed it. Older master, solid enough. Everything that I've talked about with these previous masters pretty much applies here. No major damage or anything, but just looks a little bit softer around the edges and stuff. No special features, but DTS 2.0 audio, pretty solid video, overall good. And now we're heading down the home stretch where we have a trio of Severin titles I'm going to end with. The first of which is from Lamberto Bava. We have The Mask of Satan, aka Demons 5. That's kind of what it's known as by some people. So I've reviewed the Demons films before. I've reviewed some of the Demons films before, like The Church and stuff. But this is along that line where this is about a group of teenagers who go on a skiing trip. They end up falling into like a chasm, and they find the corpse of a witch that was killed and like had a mask nailed onto her face. And they kind of wake up this ancient evil, and it kind of like infects the friend group, and just like it's a witch coming back and trying to seek revenge on some of the people who helped kill her and everything. It's a pretty fun, gnarly film. Great practical special effects. There's like one really cool special effect where there's a witch who like is appearing to be a beautiful woman at one point. She is naked, and then she like starts to turn into like a decrepit witch, and like you see like her body just start to like basically like suck in itself and like become all wrinkled and gnarled and stuff. It's pretty impressive special effects. You gotta love stuff like that. If you're a sicko, you're gonna love it. Yeah, if you like Lamberto Bava, I think you'll like this well enough. It's a pretty gnarly one, but in a good way. This does come from a 2K scan of the original camera negative. This looks pretty solid. I will say that there are still times where I notice like little bits of like dirt or debris in some of the shots, like where that didn't get out of the gate or whatever. But overall, it's a really nice, clear looking transfer. Overall, nice textures, nice consistent color. Overall, looks very good. Just a little bit more like debris than I had noticed on some of the other titles I talked about. But you get that. You get a Spanish and Italian language track in the original mono, and you get 3 interviews in this version of the release. You get 3 interviews, including one with Lamberto Bava, actress Mary Sellers, and actress Deborah Capriaglio. So Severin did a nice job with The Mask of Satan on Blu-ray. And yeah, if you're a Bava fan, check it out. My next one is a much newer release. This is the debut of Brandon Cronenberg, the younger Cronenberg, David Cronenberg's son. This is Antiviral. So this one is a pretty interesting body horror film. You got Caleb Landry Jones here, who is an actor I really quite appreciate. No reversible cover art here. This is the standard version. There is a 3-disc version on the Severin site that includes an additional disc with the can cut of the film, which is a little has a little bit of extra footage. But this is the standard version on 4K. So this is Cronenberg really taking society's obsession with celebrity to task. In this kind of futuristic world, society has gotten to a point where celebrities are harvested. They are donating their diseases to fans who can like purchase to get infected with the diseases that their favorite celebrities have. So if they have like a cold or like a cold sore or anything like that, if they want that celebrity to be literally a part of them, they can get sick and injected with them. And it's really disgusting. If you hate the sight of needles going into skin, definitely avoid this film. But it's very clever in how they kind of go about this, and how this leads into kind of like a larger mystery once a very famous actress winds up dead, and there's kind of questions about what happened to her, and like if someone tried to kill her with kind of like these strange new illnesses and stuff, and just how she kind of ended up dead just kind of all winds up together. And I think this works very well. If you've seen his films after this, like Possessor or Infinity Pool, it's very much on par with that. He was doing very good work even from his earlier days. Great work from Caleb Landry Jones. Sarah Gadon, she does a really good job as like the famous actress that people love. Great practical effects work. Like I love some of the like body horror stuff that's going on here. Overall, it makes me very uncomfortable, but it's a very good movie. This is from a new 4K scanner, the 35mm Internegative in Dolby Vision. Looks really, really good. Never seen this before. It was previously released on Blu-ray by IFC Films. I've never had that release, but this one looks very, very good. You get a new commentary track, a short film, a making of featurette, some interviews, good number of special features. As I said, if you want that 3rd disc with the can cut and like a slip cover, go to the Severin site. You will get that. But as it is, the standard edition of Antiviral is worth checking out if you're a Brandon Cronenberg fan or a David Cronenberg fan and you want to see what his son's up to. Antiviral is definitely a pretty solid body horror film. And finally, from director, I believe it's Jean-Pierre Junot, we have Delicatessen. So this is from the director of Amelie and the City of Lost Children. This is a post-apocalyptic society where meat is a kind of a delicacy, and this very much centers on an apartment building with very colorful characters and a butcher who lives at the bottom, who you kind of, this isn't really a spoiler, but you come to find out is he's doing a little bit of Sweeney Todding it, where he is butchering some of the people who come to live there and serving their meat as kind of a delicacy. And a circus performer who's like a kind-hearted circus performer comes to live in this apartment building, and he kind of falls in love with the butcher's daughter. And this isn't, while it is from Severin and it has kind of some darker satirical things going on. This isn't a horror film, so don't go in expecting that. There's not really anything overly gory or anything like that. But if you like dark humor and just kind of the world, the weird, strange world that Junot usually crafts within his films, it is very much worth a watch. It's a really, really great movie. And I like how this kind of, there's a very specificity to a style that I really appreciate. Like, it almost feels like a musical at times. It's not a musical, but just like moments where people are like swaying in tune, and just like there's a very cool style to his films that I really appreciate. And it isn't as like saccharine as Amelie, which I really love Amelie, but there's just a really interesting blend of dark comedy that works really well here. This is my first time watching this one. I had a blast, and I really enjoyed watching it on 4K because this is from a new 4K restoration of the original camera negative, conducted by Studio Canal. Looks really, really good. This has a very specific color grade that is kind of a Junot standard. So this has like a very kind of yellowish hue to it. That's how it's supposed to look. You do get a commentary track, interview, making up featurettes, and just a nice assortment of things for this 2-disc version here. So Blu-ray and 4K of the original cut of the film, the feature film. As with Antiviral, you can get a 3-disc version of this film on the Severin site. It's a limited edition. You have a whole additional disc of special features, including some much desired short films and retrospectives and all stuff. So if you're a Delicatessen fanatic, get the 3-disc set and you will get everything you need. But this 2-disc standard edition is well worth the money if you just need the film in the best quality possible. This has some good special features and the film in good quality. So that is my final title. That I hope with this wide array of boutique titles and mainstream titles that you found something that is interesting to you. If so, let me know in the comments what you're most interested to check out. Let me know what you would want me to talk about in the future. I have another exciting slate brewing for next week. I cannot wait to get to it. But make sure to stay connected. Just make sure you're subscribed, and just tell anyone that you think might be interested in this about the show. I really appreciate anyone who helps this grow, and I love doing this for you. And as I said, I will be back again next week, but